Welcome back to another Habs Locker Room report with hockey coach Quincy directly from the beautiful country of Thailand. And we have the co-host back in the house after a vacancy, maybe 1 week, last week, no locker room, but he is back in the house from Hawkesbury. Mr. Marko Larabi back in with us. And Mr. Enortap is directly from Toronto, downtown the Cayman. Welcome back, both of you. Another great show of the Habs Locker Room report.
Good evening, Hockey Nation. Glad to be back. A little vacation. Needed a break from Coach. You know, he's very intense hockey opinions. You know,
that's great to hear that. Wednesday night, January 24, 2024 already. Almost the end of the first month. The time is fly. We're going to hit the All-Star game next week. And we'll see what's happening about that. 7 game in NHL tonight. Toronto and the Winnipeg cannot score any goal. And then we have the Hurricane take the lead 2-0 against the Boston Bruins. And we have the Panthers lead 5-0 against the Arizona. Not looking good for Arizona Coyotes tonight. 5-0. And then Laval losing 2-1 with 13 minutes to go remaining on the third period. So that's what all the update you need to know what's going on. Of course, RJ Calabo is going to give us all the fun update around the league for sure. But tonight, it's all about is getting ugly with the Montreal Canadiens. And I'm going to give us a little bit more some news and update. And look like some Habs fans are frustrated from last night in the chat. So they want to fire the head coach, Martin Saint-Louis. But all the stuff we're going to talk about this, of course, the next couple of minutes. That's what we're going to be here. And talking, of course, different other news in NHL. And tonight, I have something special for both of you. It will be interesting to hear you answer about my question. I'm going to get to you about half of the show. But before we start, we would love to welcome everybody like we do every single night. And welcome back right away, Nicolas de Gauby-Bonneau dans la région de Sherbrooke. Il est de retour avec nous ce soir. Nicolas de Gauby-Bonneau, welcome back. Alan Vaillancourt, sit at home in Kentucky with his beautiful Erin and the mother-in-law. And back from Nashville after he went to watch the Predator against the Panthers. Welcome back. JJ Evans back in the house. Here we go. That's one of them. Martin Saint-Louis to Laval to work on his coaching. And then we have my friend Rick Bengal directly from Lake House with the beautiful Dementra. Welcome back, both of you. Hopefully doing well. Great day in Halifax. I don't know if the weather is over there, but hopefully you enjoy your day and the beautiful, great Lake House. Our friend from Bangkok, good morning on the Thursday morning here in beautiful Clays in Thailand. Mr. Roy is back with us tonight. Welcome back, Mr. Roy. Thanks for being with us. Abination knock the door, ladies and gentlemen. Abination is with us tonight. And then we have RJ Calabo from New Jersey. Moderator Luciano Graziano knock the door. Welcome back, Mr. Luciano. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. And then we have Terry. TT, the double T is in the house tonight. Long time we not see you, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. William Sheffield is in the house. William Sheffield been with us for 4 years ago. He's a young man traveling around for the world from Canada to England to USA. I don't know what he is right now. He could be somewhere we don't know yet. Maybe in South Africa, we know. But William is his sister and his brother or something like that. But anyway, William, welcome back. Glad to have you aboard. Hopefully you're doing well. Claude Richard de la capitale du Canada, directement de Ottawa. Mr. Claude is back in the house tonight. And finally, we have Gary Cornoyer. Just dropped the UPS truck and now he's back home and wait for the other news around the Montreal Canadiens for sure. And Patrick Leblanc is with us tonight. Thanks to be with our Canadian show, Patrick. And then we're going to see what's happening with other people in the chat. The bet of the night for Patrick Teravainen and Ren Donado with 2+ shot for 2.78. Teravainen scored a goal, so he should be all right about that. An extra bet, Winnipeg to win visit Toronto. This is not sure. This is going to be interesting. Both teams are 23 shots. They're still 0-0 with 12-21 to go remaining on that game between the Jets and the And then I played chicken with my fantasy. I sit down Ranta against Toronto, against Boston. Now they're winning 2-0. I trade Laurent Brossoit because I think he was not to be goaltender this week, and now he played tonight. And that's going on with
Never
my
drop your
fantasy
goalies,
about
coach.
that one over there. And
Never
finally,
drop your
Laval
goalies.
tied the game 2-2. And Bourque scored for the Laval, and the Rocket are back in business. Very important game for them to stay in the race of the chase of the playoff for the Laval Rocket. So the captain Bourque scored for the Laval Rocket. So you get everything what you need to know about what's going on around about that one there. But Gary, I have a question. The hockey after the new year goes up, and the national to the Ab will have their hands full. The Ab center line is T-Blade does not help for Gary Conway about that. Anyhow, Chris Hansen is in the house. No reason to be frustrated. Hugo, what's your head? It's not too bad. Not too bad. I think we are not too bad right now. A little bit improvement, but not good enough. But you know, we have to be happy what we got at this moment. But can I go to 72? We'll drop here. We're going to get a bit better here. Here we go. Chris said, no reason to be frustrated. Hugo has stated many times what is happening. The Ab roster has little talent to compete, plenty of bad contract. They will have a much better roster in 2 years. Here we go. That's happening about that. Jeffrey Adams, welcome back in the house. Jeffrey Adams, a lot of talent on the Ab, but not been utilized to fullest. About that for Jeffrey. Samuel back in the house tonight. Welcome back. Ski is minus 17. That's not key material. Look at Couturier. This is key material. Gary. For that book score, Chris and Patrick, we get it. You don't like Suzuki for Chris. Well, Suzuki, bless by is already without need to be accountable. That me said is hockey people said is credible. By the way, about that, that's how we go around everything about that. Welcome back, both of you. Thanks. I wait for your conversation. What we do at the beginning of the show.
Mr. Headlines. We love our headlines, Coach.
Here we go. The headline. We turn around to the headline. Very interesting. The headline tonight. I can wait to hear from all the three of you. For two of you tonight. We're going to start with Mr. Marko back in the house. So I can wait to listen to you about that one over there. It took me a couple of minutes to find his picture, but we got him. Here we go.
Yeah, so Coach, I conjured up a Will Smith picture. This is a classic meme that you find online. When I look at this, it kind of makes me think, like, I know Will Smith is the one that slapped Chris Rock, but it's kind of the opposite. Like, Montreal kind of got slapped in the face over the last couple games. But either way, you get the analogy here. So the headline is a low point. I think definitely, we've reached that point of the season right now, probably the lowest point of the season, I would say. And you guys know that I don't necessarily look at wins and losses necessarily to kind of come to that conclusion. It's more the way that they're playing, right? So again, like before this stretch, these 3 games against Ottawa, and then against Boston, and then Ottawa again, probably the lowest, kind of, I'd say, kind of grade of play that I've seen from Montreal so far this year. What concerns me, Coach, and Enortap, is if you look at those games, right? Ottawa, Boston, and Ottawa. These are games that Montreal should have no problem getting up for. These are games that you should be able to conjure. It's not playing Columbus on a Tuesday night, or whatever, where it's hard to get motivated for whatever reason. You're playing Boston on a Saturday night in Boston. They have the 1988 Bruins that they're calling on all the karmic energy that you can think of. They're saying things like, this is the Boston Bruins team that broke the Habs curse forever, right? Like, they're saying stuff like that. As a Habs fan, you're like, oh, really? They broke the Habs curse forever? Oh, well, this should be interesting. Like, if you're a Habs player on the bench seeing that, how can you not be, jumping on the ice and be super motivated? And then you're playing Ottawa, a regional rival. There's a history there. I know that Montreal hasn't played well against Ottawa. It's 8 games in a row now. But this is an easy game to get up for, guys. So to me, that's concerning, right? Like it's not necessarily that they lost the games. It's in the way that they lost these games is very concerning. Now, again, it's not that they're losing games. I think we all know that's part of the process. That's not really what my concern is. I'm not saying it's unacceptable. They have to be fighting for the playoffs, all that. Like, you guys know where I stand on that, but definitely right now we're seeing a bit of a dip. I'm sure Coach will have, and Enortap will have the opportunity to talk about what is causing this right now. I have a couple of theories behind that. You're seeing a little bit of lack of energy from the players. Immediately, everybody, the big topic yesterday was Montreal playing with only 3 centers. Well, yeah, like I agree. I don't like that move very much. It's a bit baffling as to why they did that. And then, your first instinct is, well, why are they doing this to Suzuki? You could see his energy level was already a bit low, and now you're going to give him extra minutes. But then if you look at how many minutes he played, he wasn't really the one that was impacted yesterday, right? Like he played a minute and a little bit more extra than he usually plays. But Evans is really the one that caught most of those extra minutes, right? That being said, though, like there are some questionable decisions. Like again, I don't want to be too critical. I know this is part of the process, but there are some questionable decisions here. Not by Martin Saint-Louis unless he's been consulted, but I really just don't get why you wouldn't call up a center. And I didn't find Saint-Louis' response made sense. In the press conference, he was asked, like, why did you guys choose to play with only 3 centermen? He's like, well, we've done that before this year a couple times, and it was pretty good. But I know they've played with 7 defensemen before, but I don't think they've ever played with only 3 centers. I don't think that's accurate. I think they always had Mitchell Stevens in the lineup or another centerman playing at that time. So I don't think they've ever played. I don't think I ever remember, other than maybe Byron, playing center because they were short. But he's played center before, right? So there's really no natural centers left to play at all. So guys, definitely a low point in the season. What I'm really interested in, and what we've talked about, okay, is the team better? Is it progressing? Are the players maturing? Well, here's the key thing that we need to look at to see if that's true, in my opinion. In the past, as you'll remember in previous seasons, Montreal has gone on these long 7-8 game losing streaks where you see Brendan Gallagher coming out, like just completely defeated, just not being able to explain anymore. So we haven't had that this year. There hasn't been a really long string of losses and really bad times where they've just lost themselves completely. This is the longest that I've seen that, 3 games in a row. Now, they've lost 3 games in a row this season, but I'd say that they played better in some of those games that they lost. So what I want to see here is I don't want to see this extend into like a 7 or 8 game. And to some, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Patrick or who was mentioning it, the time of the year, right? Like hockey's going to start getting tougher here. So we're going to learn what this team is made of. I don't look at it in terms of wins necessarily, but they need to be more competitive, a little bit more consistency, and win some battles. Coach, I could go on and on. I'm sure we'll talk about this stuff a bit more, but definitely a low point in the season so far. Enortap, I'm not sure if your headline is going to be positive or if it's in the same tone as mine, but curious as to kind of what you think of some of the theories.
It's pretty much in the same line, Marco. But I agree with you. It's not so much the losses that concerns me. It's the fashion in which they've lost.
Level score.
Okay.
Stevens.
There you go. We need a centerman. Bring him up.
Do I need to give you the breaking news now? He's coming and Montreal's back.
Well, Roy did go down today, so who knows? It could be in the cards soon. But it's just.
Did we switch the headline, or we still talking about?
No, don't. We're still talking about the low points right now.
Okay.
Because I agree. It's one thing to lose, but there should be no excuse for lack of effort. And I mean, if you look at the Boston game, I get that the first 2 periods weren't executed.
But scores again.
Really?
Sorry, I keep interrupting, but as time as that, Mayu scores now 4-2 for Laval. See, not
Here
only
we go.
coach gets the interrupt on the show. It's the
But I
first
don't
time I've
want to.
gotten it.
I don't
We
want to
deliver.
distract Enortap twice. I just said nothing about that one.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm used to it. Now I forgot what I was saying.
Effort. There's no excuse for no effort.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Boston game, I was really disappointed with the third period. I get that they weren't executing very well in the first two periods, but for the most part, they were still in that game. If with a couple of good bounces and the proper effort, they could have easily come back and tied that game. And then you never know what happens in overtime. But that third period was extremely disappointing. It seemed after they scored that sixth goal, they just threw the towel in, and at about the 8-minute mark, St. Louis had to call a timeout to sort of say, "Get out there and like let's not put on a pity show here. Get out there, do your job. Don't worry about the score. Just make sure you execute what you have to do and perform your role." So that was concerning. And yes, the Ottawa game as well. You think they would have got up for that? Didn't happen. It'll be interesting to see where they go from this. But lack of effort, to me, is always a major concern.
You find it surprising though, Enortap, kind of what I was saying, that if you're not
Yeah,
able to get up with Ottawa and Boston, like those are games that it should be very easy for them to get up for, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can come up with a dozen reasons why they're not performing very well, or maybe their effort's not in there right
Do you
now.
know the
From
record in that classic division?
Two and
No,
eight.
but it can't be very good. It can't be very good.
So that was funny. So you could see St. Louis. There's a couple responses in his press conference yesterday. You can see like he wasn't super happy about the questions, but they're good questions from the press. So somebody brought that up to him and said, "You know what? You have right now a 2-8 record, I think, against the Atlantic Division. Why do you think that is?" And St. Louis' response was, "It's a tough decision. It's a very tough division. This is not an easy league." Right? That was
No,
his
it's not.
response.
I
Yeah.
think it's worse, Marco. I think they played already 22 games.
Against the Atlantic? No, I think it's 2-8 from what I
I know.
remember.
What I heard like is 4-17.
Against the Atlantic
Really?
Division.
Yeah.
I don't think they played that many.
Well,
Coach, are we going to, by the way, are we going to have a conversation? So I see Patrick is bringing up this thing about Suzuki being critical about his ice time. Do you have that as a topic, or can we talk about that right now?
No, later.
Okay.
later.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish
Yeah.
the headlines first.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Undertap, thanks for your reaction. Coach, let's see
Yeah.
Undertap's headline.
I don't talk anymore. Here we go. Let's move on to the next one. Mr. Enortap.
Okay. So really, this is a good segue to what Marco was saying, and I called it the Habs Chaos Theory, HCT for short. It's more in response to the reaction of the fan base and then the chat over the past few games, and I get it. We were just saying right now that there's no excuse for a lack of effort, but I think there's a lot of agents in play here, and I wanted to relate it a little bit to uh, one of the things that we know in society, which is called the chaos theory, especially in mathematics, and it's really the study of apparently like random or unpredictable behavior that occurs within a system, and then is governed by deterministic laws. And really, that's just a fancy way of saying that within disorder there is order, and what we're reacting to, I believe, right now is the disorder part, because that's what surfaces. What is hard to see at its core is the order that has to happen. And I think that's where I get a little bit of faith in what's happening, because I see it as we have the proper people in place in terms of management. They have a history behind this. So at least Gordon does. He's been with a couple teams before, and he's gone through this process, especially with the Rangers. and we've seen where they've escalated to at this point. So to me, I think sort of the brain trust is there. You have somebody like Hughes as well that's joined the team. Nothing is done unilaterally within the organization. There's a lot of transparency. There's a lot of conversation that happens. We've even seen, documentaries on how they go about their draft picking and everything like that. And so I like that collaboration aspect of it because it shows me that there is structure, there is organization behind the choices that they're making. Now we can all pick and choose at whether they're the right choices or not. But I think a lot of times when certain comments are made, it's very reactionary to the moment, and it's easy to say, well, St. Louis doesn't have any experience, let's get him fired. Suzuki is not a true top line center, and the statistics don't enrich the statistics don't bear it, or analytics. You can go on and on with Caulfield, Sofkoski, the defense being as young as they are, making the mistakes that they make. But at the end of the day, you have to have faith that this is something that Montreal really, if you think about it, Marco, they've never been through this, at least as far as I can recall. They've never been through a true rebuild. If anything, they've retooled many times in their history, but they've never been through a true rebuild. And if you look at some of the teams that are going through rebuilds or have gone through rebuilds, it's not a process where you can define it with a timeline and say, okay, well, within 4 or 5 years, guess what? We're going to be Stanley Cup either winners or competitors, right? It just doesn't happen that easily. And there are so many theories and so many things that can go wrong within that structure that you didn't anticipate for, but you have to adapt to. And for me, like one thing that I read just recently in the Athletic, which I kind of thought was very interesting. The question was posed, and I wrote it here so I don't want to misquote it. How were the top 3 scoring forwards on the 2 Stanley Cup finalist teams over the past 10 years acquired? Was it through the draft? Was it through trade? Was it through free agency? And I know we've talked a lot about this, Marco, that there's many ways to skin a cat. And this is what I think Hughes has in mind in terms of building this thing up. But the research showed when they looked at these 60 players in total from the 2 finalists over 10 years, that 36 of those were drafted, which is not too overly surprising. Only 13 of those 36 were picked in the top 5 in the draft. Another 8 were taken in the late first round, and 15 of those were taken in the second round or later. And of the other 24 forwards, 13 were acquired via trade, 5 were signed as unrestricted free agents, 4 were from expansion draft picks, and 2 were undrafted free picks or free agents. Sorry. So the key takeaway from all of this is that I think we need to be patient. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take time. There's still contracts that need to be cleared out. You have to, there's intangibles that come into play, like, the team chemistry and the culture, which I think hopefully they've dug some deep roots for that already, and it should come to the forefront as we move on in this. But it's something that I have faith that there is something that will come out of all of this, because I see the key organization within this chaos that we currently are experiencing. The only thing I don't have much time for is lack of effort, as we mentioned earlier. But it's only 3 games, so I'm not going to put much into it.
So I agree with most of what you said. Like I get it, right? Like I'll put it this way, Enortap, like 2 things can be true at once. You can believe in the management team and believe in Martin St. Louis you can look at the more macro picture of it all and understand what they're doing and buy into that, while also still being critical and observant of some of the decisions that are made within that. And if we feel that some of them we don't agree with, I think it's fine for fans to, I think both things can be true. You can still believe in the larger plan, but question the decision to only have three centers and not call up another center for that game, right? For just as an
Totally.
example, you know,
You're right. There has to be accountability.
yeah, and so again, like you can believe that Nick Suzuki is going to be, you know, like a really good two-way center in the league, and you can also maybe suspect that maybe 21 minutes a game is too much for him over that period of time, always facing the best players and not having that support, and maybe that's impacting his game. So it, you know, I guess we talked about the fan base being a bit bipolar before, you know, like it's either, you know, go get your lawn chairs for the parade in St. Catharines, or fire everyone, you know. So I think there's a lot there to what you're saying. Like, I think if you look at the larger plan and everything that they're doing in place, to me, like I've mentioned here many times, Coach, and I'll let you jump in here because you're going to fall asleep if we don't get you in here at some point.
I'm going too
Is
busy right now. I had the chat, I had the game, having the game. It's all good. It's just I had difficult time to follow your stories.
oh, okay, all right. So Coach, like, and Enortap, like, there's two key phases to what they're doing here, right? Like we've talked about this before. There's asset collection, and then there's going to be roster construction, right? To me, the easiest part is asset collection. Because, like, it's not saying it's super easy. Like, you can still make mistakes there, but trading, you know, to Foley for a first round pick, that's not that hard to do compared to, okay, now I have these assets. I need to really analyze what pieces do I need to build the right team. That's the much harder, the much trickier part. The part that Ottawa hasn't figured out yet. The part that Buffalo hasn't figured out yet. The part that Detroit maybe is a little further along in figuring out maybe than those two other teams. To me, that's where I'm going to judge the plan. Right now, remember the game Hungry Hungry Hippos, Enortap, where there's all the marbles and you just kind of gobble them. Like, to me, that's what Montreal is right now. They're just gobbling a whole bunch of assets, you know, and then at the end of the game, they're going to have all these marbles, and it's really, what do you do with those marbles and how do you build that puzzle after that? To me, is where the real strategy and where the more important part happens, right? So I buy into everything you're saying there. Like, yeah, you know, you do have to look at the macro picture of it and not be distracted by these little pits, these little valleys. But you can't ignore them either, you know. Like, and that's why my headline was about, there's some concerning things about 3 games, you know, about like not being able to get excited to play Boston on a Saturday night. That's an issue. And again, if we want to see progress from last year, Coach, and this is maybe a good chance for you to jump back in, is the big difference that we want to see from last year, like I was saying, is we've had points in the last couple of years where they would go on 7, 8, 10 game stretches where they were just completely off the rails completely, right? So right now we're about 3 games where it's a little bit off the rails. To me, the big test is how quickly, and again, it doesn't mean they have to win. I just want to see them play the right way. Like, they could lose 3-2 in overtime, but play an amazing game. And to me, I would consider that back on the rails, right? But what do you think, Coach? Like, what is it that you're looking for out of these 3 tough games?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I have some stuff going to show on the show, right? But they have 2 point more. They have 2 more points this year compared last season after 47 game. The Montreal Canadiens. Last season in December, after Sean Mannion injury in December 9 or 11 last year, they went to the slum of 7 or 8 last straight game. This year, the highest number they lost game straight is 4. They never been under 2 game below 500, and they never been over 2 game 500. That's the resume of the Montreal Canadiens so far. If you want to be improvement, that's what we're looking for, to be sure they don't get that kind of slum, 7, 8 game. on the meanwhile, we have to remember send Christmas time that you remember like they come back for the 3 game on the road in Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Florida. Send that they are the one that the worst team in NHL get more point on the standing. Obviously, it's just every time they get 3 loss, they win after that, and then they go back a couple of games with 1 point, one
Yeah.
point, and then they lost again, and then after that, now they are another loss of 3 games. So if you think about that, they play only for 400 since they're returning about Christmas. This is their slum of January. This is what I'm going to talk about next ski. This is Islam and the season for next ski. So I have all those numbers I'm going to share with you. The key behind that, what you when you talk about searching consistency, is to be sure you don't get those kind of slum um, and then the losing department for the Montreal Canadiens at that moment. When you want to become a good team, but this is the same way. When you want to be a good team, lead in the top 15 and make the playoff, you don't want to losing 3, 4, 5 game, and you want to be sure you can get those straight a WWW 5 scheme to keep you in the standing. So I just want to share
But
with you about that.
that's where I disagree, right? Like it's not about wins. Like looking at wins to me doesn't really matter, right? Like if you look at till
Now,
after Christmas, there's some games that they've lost, but I was more than happy with those games. And there's games that they've won that I was like, they played like a shitty game. So
yeah,
I know
but
that that's the easiest way to look at it, but I don't look at it that way.
yeah, the other encouraging thing is when you look, okay, if you look at overall, you'll see that their plus minus is very low. It's probably one of the worst in the Atlantic, if not the worst. But you have to take it in consideration because I think it's something like 70% of the games that they've played in have all been within one goal.
One goal.
So
Yeah.
when you iron that out there, I think I read that they were either at a -2 or something like that, which is very respectable. It's the games that effort isn't there, and it hasn't been consistent, which is a good thing. All right. But it's those types of games that throw your numbers askew. So like when you go losing, what was it, 9-2 to Boston or 9-4 and 6-1 here and there. And of course those numbers will add up and it makes it look a lot worse than it actually is. And I just think that overall they have to be accountable for those. And I think so far, knock on wood, they have been, with the exception of these last 3 games.
So, Coach, to me, that there's a comment here from Robert Allen, and to me, nails it, right? So, personally, I can't get excited by 2-point improvement. St. Louis making strange decisions. I'm losing confidence. See, to me, that's what I see a lot in a lot of Habs fans.
But if you think about this, this is a team, right? The power play is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The goaltending, is it better?
It's
the same.
Slightly better. Slightly better. Yeah.
Kaden Coley is a better player today.
Yes.
I don't know if I would buy that. I don't think he's at a better.
He's better hockey player today compared he was before that, for sure.
Definitely.
All right. Now, if you look about that if you go with Juraj Slavkovsky, is a better hockey player?
Absolutely.
All right. Joel Armia, is it better this year?
So right? I get what you're saying, Coach.
Brendan Gallagher, is it better this year? Do I expect you have 7 goals this year, 8 goals? I think so. Do you think Jake Eben played better hockey this year in the last 3 seasons? I think so too. Well, my point behind that is Martin St. Louis developed players to get better. Unfortunately, they don't have enough talent and skill right now to compete overall about that. You're going to not be perfect on all the categories. The face-off is better. The power play is a little bit better. But unfortunately, the same for the PK. But that's okay. But again, individually, we get better. And that's why you're focusing on that part over there. The team concept will come when you're going to get all the players get out of the contract who we don't need anymore. Until then, we just navigate to go through the transition to get those players come back, and the one going to get, Mayu, Jekai, and Roy, you can name it, the player, Rebecca, Oliver, Hudson, one is going to be there for the next 2 years. That would be really the team I can use. Right now, it's still a team between Marc Bergevin and Ken Hughes. Until then, they just go on the transition.
I agree, Coach.
Yeah.
And so that's one way to look at it. The other way that I look at it, like, is, remember earlier in the year, we talked about Montreal at certain points of the year. They set a new standard. Like there was games that they played, and I think we all agreed. And even Martin Saint Louis said this, like, "Wow, I think this is the best game I've seen them play since I've been here in Montreal." Right? There's probably about 5 or 6 games like that. So that's that's where the progression is, because we discovered a new standard, and everything you just said, like the improvement of all those individual players, fits within that. So it's like St. Louis has said many times, right? Right now they're just, so we've established and identified a new standard in which we could expect that they can play, right? And we can just imagine what that standard will be like when Doc is there and when Newhook is there and all the other players that you're saying are coming up through the pipeline. But to me, that's where to Robert's comment about, like, you can't get excited about 2 points. If you're focused on points, I agree. You're not going to get excited. And if that's the only way you're going to look at it, then I can understand why you're frustrated, because you're not going to get what you're looking for from that. But what it's you have to look at how they're playing and understand that that's really the big change. And again, we've talked about it repeatedly. It's just about being able to do that consistently now. And what's disappointing about the last 3 games is that we haven't seen that team, and we don't want it to be consistently where they lose that new standard that they established early in the season, right? So that's why, for me, the most important thing, I don't want to see 8 games in a row where they're playing like this, because then I'll be like Robert. I'll be like, okay, now I'm starting to lose faith. Like, did they really hit a new standard, or was that luck somehow, right? To me, that's where growth is can they get there again?
Yeah. The Winnipeg Jet just missed a power play, a 4-3 on overtime. Cannot capitalize on that one there.
And OT now. Yeah.
So interesting about that. All right. Are you done now with your headlines?
Headline, Coach.
There you go. So SOS. I should go with SOS, but I said, need help. Martin St. Louis need help. And when I said that, there's a lot of people right now in the chat talk about this one over there. And they talk about Martin St. Louis does not good job, everything like that. Why they have 3 center? What about if Ken Hughes told to Martin St. Louis to play with 3 center?
Yeah, it's...
Why would he do that?
For sure.
But why would he do that?
Right? Why Martin St. Louis have to deal with 3 goaltender?
It's not St. Louis' decision, that's for sure.
So my point I had that is Martin St. Louis is right now, his hands is really tied up right now with the decision of the management. They're holding everything right now for the Montreal Canadiens. If they decide to put Michel Seven down, it's because they want to give a little bit more. You have 2 reasons behind that. They want to keep Joshua for 1 extra game. And then secondly, they thought, again, Ottawa, they will need more physicality of the game, so they keep Pesada in the lineup, and therefore them, it was only for 1 game. He risked, he put the money on the table, he gambled. He put the money on the table, and he got beat on that one. If the Montreal win yesterday, again the Ottawa, nobody will talk about the 3 center. Everybody will focus like this was great, and maybe it was good. But again, he did not turn around that part over there. Now, if they play like this for 6-7 games, there will be a big concern about that. They can bowl about this. They want to have Pesada in the team. He played only 1 minute 47, I think it's on this game anyway. But again, this is where the Martin St. Louis right now is a little confusing or a little bit struggling about the situation with Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon about the 3 goaltending right now, the roster overall, and I'm sure he was not very happy or very pleased about that situation. He need help from the management right now to settle down and say, you know what, we need to be sure now we have 2 goaltender. Whatever happening there, we have to figure out that, because he cannot put any players. Imagine if you have 2 goaltender. I'm pretty sure, Marco, right? Everybody in the chat, you said, I never see this before, right? They will keep Mitchell Stephen. And they're going to play with 4 center. But because that 3 goaltender, they cannot go nowhere. So I think for me, for me, he need help about that to have a better way to have a better performance overall. A lot of people complaining is the guys the problem. I don't see Martin St. Louis the big problem with that. You can put Scotty Bowman, like I said before that, at coach right now behind the bench. It will not shun the Montreal Canadiens. They're not going to make the playoff. The Toronto just score. And that's happening about that. They take a winning goal and overtime. I don't know if Matthews did it, but Toronto beat the Winnipeg Jets 1-0 tonight.
Big like shutout for Samsonov.
So
Samsonov back in the house.
So my point behind that is just that about Martin St. Louis. I think, he's not a problem. I don't understand what the fans complaining about Martin St. Louis. There's that. We're going to talk a little bit more after that, a little bit later.
Well, it's reactionary. It's reactionary to the moment. That's what it is. But there's so many underlying bubbling stories that are happening that we are not privy to, and that's what we have to take into consideration. Like the 3 goalie situation, I presume that will be rectified before the trade deadline time. You would think, right? Unless you're getting a very poor offer from teams for Jake Allen. So, I mean, these are all questions that will be answered. The problem is, if you look at their schedule, I think they have either the 4th or the 5th worst strength of schedule going the rest of the way. That maybe a couple of players will be traded, so that's going to deplete your roster even more. So it's going to really put the emphasis on the players that they do have and anybody that's coming up at some point to put that effort in, as we were talking about earlier, to make sure that maybe they're not winning, but at least they're digging in and they're playing good hockey. And then that's where you see the progression.
Yeah. So, Coach, I look at your headline and I hope that people don't interpret this to mean that you think St. Louis needs help, as in he needs like another assistant coach or something like that. What you mean is that you want management to recognize that.
Yeah. It's not about the assistant coach at all. It's just about the management for the roster right now. He tied him up for not only the last 3 games, Marco. It's since the beginning of the year. It's not easy to deal with 3 goaltender. And I think if you think about development, this is the problem they have right now. I know we have 1 month before the trade deadline. They want to bring back Tanner Pearson in the lineup, and I understand that. But at some point, that situation complicate things around the Martin St. Louis right now.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out, just in case somebody reads that headline and they're confused about what you mean, right? It's not about him needing help from an outside source, but it's exactly what I was saying to Enortap's headline, Coach, is 2 things can be true at once. Like you can believe in the management team and you can believe in what we're doing, but you can also question, why did they make that move? But again, and like Enortap just said, we don't have all the information either, right? Like we don't have a lot of data as to understanding what the marketplace is for certain things. But any fan can look at, they made I like your theory about them. Okay, they took a risk that they would be able to get by in that game with only 3 centers. But Coach, like, what if one of your centers gets injured and now you're only down to 2 centers in one game? Like, to me, that's not a good calculated risk to play, just to have Pizzetta in the lineup. Like, why did Pearson need to absolutely dress for that game? Like, why couldn't you just waited an extra game if that's really what you wanted to do? Like, anyways, there's a lot of things you can go back and forth about that. But I agree. Like, there are realities that the management team has to deal with. And as a fan base, I think it's fair game. It's 100% totally fine to, have conversations and debate as to, okay, why are they making this decision? You can make that decision. But I don't know. I think anybody in good faith can look at the overall plan and understand kind of where things are going. There are some people that absolutely don't like. I see comments in the chat tonight where it's unfair to fans to have a rebuild and it's insulting to have a rebuild and things like that. But listen, like I don't agree with that statement. I think it's completely fine to do that. I find that there's some voices in the mainstream media, like in RDS and TVA, that are really critical of that, and I see a lot of things from our chat that I hear in RDS from certain sources or whatever, and I can see that it's a very sexy thing to say, like today, you had guys on RDS saying that it's, like, what kind of message does that send to the players when the owner is saying that you're in a rebuild? Like, oh, I guess we don't have to play. Players don't think like that, guys. Like, I don't believe that for a minute. I don't think,
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Molson coming out and saying that, that he knows that they're in a rebuild. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, screw it. I guess we don't need to work because they're in a rebuild. I don't buy that. I think, again, two things can be true. Players can understand that they're in a rebuild, but you can also build a culture where it's not acceptable to lose. I think those two things can exist together. It doesn't have to be
And
black and white like
And
that.
you know what, Marco? That's the key thing. Sometimes I think we look at the whole process of rebuild, thinking, okay, well, this is going to build to a Stanley Cup champion, and maybe that is your goal. But realistically, not many teams get to that stage. We say this all the time. Like at the end of the day, one team wins the Stanley Cup at the end of the year, and 31
Yep.
teams go away with their tail between their legs, and um, try again the next year. So it's not an easy process. Many things can go wrong, even if you're doing everything right within the rebuild. You can't account for things like injuries or maybe a bad draft pick or a bad trade that you make. Like look at LA with Pierre Luc Dubois, right? I mean, who would have thunk that it go to that stage? But it is what it is, and it sort of dictates your path down the road. I think ultimately what you want is you want to make sure that you get to a stage where you're on a yearly basis going to be you've created a system that it's going to sustain itself and it's going to be challenging on a yearly basis. Whether you win the cup, I mean that's fortuitous if it happens.
Great point about that
100%.
one. For that, sure. So going to move on where we got tonight. We have a lot of comments in the chat. So going to move on where we have to talk about this. The headlines tonight, guys. I want to bring this clearly here. I know people want to talk about this. We're not going to talk about Team Canada here at the channel. I decided to do that. The reason behind because it's not officially everything. We don't know. You have two missing pieces of the puzzle. Who they are, what happening, everything like that. So I have to wait confirm from the press conference February 5th from the police, the London police, to have some more comments about that. Everything could comments about the players, what happening, everything like that. It's not change everything. What's the jail? How many long? What they can get? Everything. For me, it's going to turn. You just stir the pot without knowing exactly the report, everything. It's not out for nowhere. London refused to get any comments left and right. So it's just about talking left and
They're
right, and you don't get the
they're
right information,
scheduled
misinformation
They're,
maybe.
they're scheduled, I believe they said Saturday, the London police, to make a formal statement on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation out there as to who the five are based on circumstantial evidence, and the fact that some players that are currently playing have gone on a leave or have entered some kind of a assistive program within the league. So we'll leave it at that because, as you said, it would be irresponsible to say otherwise and then name somebody that maybe isn't a part of it until we hear.
Awesome. Great to hear that. News, only big news today for the Montreal Canadiens today was the return of Joshua Watt with Laval Rocket. Was not dressed for the Laval Rocket tonight. He's going to be on the bus or going to traveling Syracuse and Rochester during the weekend when they're going to play. They have two players play tonight for the Montreal. It was Mitchell Seven for the Laval Rocket. Mitchell Seven have one goal, and then you have Justin Barron returning about that. So anything else, we do not have any player call up for Laval yet, but we have to wait what will be the next decision about the Montreal Canadiens, who went in 6 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, -2. Just briefly, 1 minute each. What do you think about the performance, Joshua, overall? Start with Marco.
I think you left a great calling card, coach. Like, the biggest question that most people would have about Wow is his skating. I think everybody saw what at the World Junior Championship. He showed that he could play a two-way game. He was an amazing penalty killer for that team, and overall, and he had a really hot start in Laval. But I think he showed really well. I think in any normal circumstance, if we didn't have these contracts we were trying to move out, like I don't question that he could play in the NHL right now, but I also don't think it's going to necessarily hurt him to continue in Laval and continue to work those things. Like for me, I think for him, it must be a nice confidence booster, to kind of know that you can play at that level. So I'm sure that they had a nice chat with him and kind of gave him good feedback and told him to go down, keep working hard, and before he knows it, he'll be back up again.
Mr.
No, well
Enortap?
said. Yeah, I think Marko nailed it there. I think he definitely didn't embarrass himself being up here. If anything, he looked quite good. Of course, going back down and getting extra experience and more ice time will definitely be an assistance to him.
Yeah, well said, everybody. Joe Manella is in the house. Welcome back. Infinite is in the house. Jerry, welcome. Steve G, KLS. Joe Manella is in the house. Don't forget, everybody, to click on the likes. And then we have Abinushan, I think he's back in the house. Chris Hansen, Frédéric Ouellet, stop by. Pierre Martin is with us. Léon Renault, JSM, Peter Pisano. Robert Allen, like you said, Marco, a little bit earlier. I think I touched everybody. A lot of people talk about our comments. I appreciate that for everybody. Put their comments there. We're going to pick up a couple of your comments the next couple of minutes. The review game, Ottawa 4, Montreal 1, in 2 minutes. I want to know what was the biggest problem for you against Ottawa. We talk about the last 3 games, what's going on, everything like that. But if you said, yeah, one thing you believe did not do very well against Ottawa, maybe 1 minute each other. Going to start with Enortap. What was your biggest concern about the game against Ottawa Senator yesterday?
I think it was the effort. Like we talked about that, and I think that's the prevailing concern is the fact that they, this is a team that beat them a couple of nights earlier, or not a couple of nights, but a couple of games earlier, and did it in a fashion that they were pretty much embarrassed. And then you have somebody like Stutzel that was making those comments about how they were glad to escort Montreal fans out of the Ottawa Center, and this is the best you can come up with in terms of a pushback. For me, that was the most concerning part. The effort, lack of effort.
So, Coach, I don't think it's like, I guess you can call it lack of effort. Like I don't like to use that word because I think it's more just it's just a feeling, right? Like really bad start. They give up that shorthanded goal really early that completely discombobulated everything, I think, and they're just never really able to. They have this emotional baggage playing against Ottawa over the last while. So to me, the word I would use is flat, just really, really flat. I don't know if we'll talk about this later. So to me, the most disappointing thing about the game, I didn't like Suzuki's comments after the game, not the ones about him, not, people interpreting that he was complaining about his ice time. I just, the way that he commented, he said that they thought overall they played a good game, and that you can agree that they maybe played a little bit better defensively. Like they didn't have as many breakdowns, odd man rushes and things like that. So I hope that's what he was referring to. But, the way that he made it sound is like, yeah, overall we played a pretty good game. Our power play let us down, which is true. The power play did let him down. They were 0 for 5. And you could definitely say that was a huge point of the game. But for him to say that he felt they played well, I don't think that's an honest assessment. And if that's really his true assessment, then I'm hoping that somebody's talking to him and really digging into kind of what he thinks is a good game. Because again, it's not just about
experience talk.
Yeah, like that was not his best moment as captain. Like I would love to see him come up there and say, not good enough. Starting with me, I need to be better. Like those are the kind of things that you would like to maybe see him come on. Again, you don't want to completely crucify yourself either, but to take a little bit of responsibility and recognize that they need to play better. I think, first of all, that would be really helpful for a lot of the fans that really appreciate strong work ethic and all those things. I just don't think you're making yourself a lot of favors when you come out and say that you think you played a good game. Not a good look.
Great point about that. There are a lot of people in the chat talking about this. Um, uh, Marco, in the 82 game, you're not going to give the perfect answer for the media. And it's go for everybody. And I don't want to defend Suzuki, but it will happen to Ski. And you know what? It, it's
Not the first time,
it's
though.
a tough.
It's not the first time I can say that.
It's tough to be every single night, win or lose, to be under the mic. He's a second guy beside Martin Saint Louis. He's always on interview every game. It's always him. A player like Savard, Montembeau, or Anderson can hide after a bad game and they don't get the mic. But Suzuki have to show up over there every single game. My point behind that, you're right. He did not say the right words about that. I think he has some flash. I think the third period they did a good game. But that came again with the word consistency. I always bring to you every single night. We talk about Montreal Canadiens. They search the consistency. The consistency is not one period. It's not two period, but it's three period. And when they don't do well, it's usually because they don't play the more minute on the right way, on the right side of the game compared they should be on the right side of the game. It's not a lack of effort. It's just what is happening about that. For me, last night showed two things from us. One thing, right? It's a team right now, they are struggling. When you struggle, you are fragile mentally. And when you're fragile mentally, is you don't have a lot of confidence. When you give a bad goal, not the way that's happening on the PK, it's you drop your glove right away there and say, there you go, right? Because you don't expect to come back to tie the game because you gave a bad goal on the PK over there. And then 41 seconds later, I believe, or 49 seconds later, they give a second goal, 2-0, and that's all. You can see everybody on the bench, they dropped their shoulder and they was down after that. This team for me is fragile at this moment, and they need more. They need to get that kind of spark plug, everything like that. And again, come with three goaltender, come with the three center. It's negative right now around. They need to get back what it should be. They should be, and for me, that's the need. They need a kind of the 0-5 power play. It was exactly happening there because the PK at the beginning of the game. It's a fragile team. Don't want to make mistake, and when you scare, but when you scared to play, but you make more mistake what you're supposed to be. And you can see for me yesterday, Marco, 10, 12 good minutes Montreal Canadiens overall at the beginning of the third period until Jacky get that penalty. I know I'm going to get blasted again, but again, Jacky get a bad penalty on the offensive zone for roughing. And that moment, not change the game, but change the momentum of what Montreal was bringing since the beginning of this period about that. And again, I'm not blaming him, but those situations, that's not help at the end. But until then, the first 10 minutes or 8 minutes, the first third period was the best hockey they play against Ottawa. Ottawa have the number, like Boston have the number, Montreal Canadiens. And it's happened this way. They lost the last 8 games. And but for me, it was like Martin said after the game. They played third period better. Third period. You tried to get positive, but yeah, not much positive yesterday. We cannot say like 5 players have a great game yesterday. You cannot make 5 players. Yeah, it would be very lie right now to say we have 5 players have a great game yesterday. Not at all. And we cannot blame Jake Allen. The people was blame Jake Allen. I did not get it. A PK goal at the beginning where Monahan and Caulfield left the guy in front of the rebound. Then the second goal, it was a player turnaround behind the net. Sanderson allowed completely 15 feet for Arden. The third goal was Joshua Roy, the defenseman, a 4-versus-4, a long stretch pass, go behind the two pillars, and he scored on the breakaway, Pinto to 3-1. And the 4 is an empty net. So you cannot blame the goaltender yesterday, Jake Allen. Again, I'm not defending. It's just the situation what happening between Ottawa and Montreal. I don't know if you want to add something there.
You got to feel bad for Jake Allen, right? Like the guy has, out of all the 3 goaltenders, he's had the lowest goal support out of all the goalies. I believe it's right at 2 goals a game or even lower, that the goal support that he's received when he's been in there.
Slightly under.
Yeah, so you just feel bad for the guy because he didn't have, like, so in a and if you think about it, he didn't have to make a lot of huge saves. So Suzuki, comme on dit en français, il était pas dans le champ. He wasn't crazy when he said that overall I think the shots were pretty equal, like mid-20s or whatever it was, the
Yeah,
shots, like
but at the beginning,
overall.
after one period, Marco was very bad. Like there was like,
Yeah,
I think they have only 10 shots during the half of the game. And then after that,
yeah,
they
yeah.
pick it up after that. But yeah, at some point, it was pretty even. I think it was 23-23.
Yeah. So and overall, in terms of scoring chances, again, they did reduce overall the scoring chances, like not as many breakdowns and things like that. So you can look at and again, like fans won't see, because the problem is that they didn't have they had zero scoring. They created zero scoring chances in the first period, like zero. There was no chances from the slot at all in the first period, and I believe really only two in the second period. And then, like I said, Ottawa and St. Louis admitted this. Maybe Ottawa takes their foot off the pedal a little bit going to the third period. So maybe a bit easier for Montreal to kind of play a little bit more open. But yeah, so overall, if you really want to try to find something positive, and that's what St. Louis' job is to try to do, is to try to build them up. Like, a lot of people want St. Louis to be on the bench throwing garbage cans on the ice and calling out his players. Like, that's not how it works, guys. Like, would you like that if your manager did that to you at your job, where they just shit all over you all the time if you made a mistake? Like, that's not how you manage people, right? Like, if you have people
No.
that are struggling, you need to try to build them up and help them get better. That's what he's trying to do. So he's trying to find positives. The positives, like Coach said, is they did find a little bit of their identity going to the third. They did play a little bit better of a defensive game, less breakdowns, less odd man rushes. But now they need to. The key thing that really bugged me, Coach, I wasn't able to find this stat anywhere. I don't know if you have it, but I'd be very curious to see what the one-on-one battles were last night. I suspect it was really highly in favor of Ottawa, like probably like 75% of
The
the
first two period, it was all about Ottawa yesterday.
yeah, yeah,
The third period,
one-on-one battles.
they start to be better because the four-checking was better. Anderson four-check behind that line, then following by Evans, everything like that. And they set up their game over there, but they cannot find to get that goal. I wish they can score the first 4 minutes of this game at the third period. That would maybe modify a bit. It was too late for that one. But again, you're absolutely right. Defensively, they are better yesterday, but they have to find a way to get. I always said that they cannot hammer anyone this year. Whatever they lead by 2 goal, we need the third. They don't do it. We trade by 2 goal. We get one, but we cannot come back to get that nil over there at some point. So it's just a slum right now, and we wish or we hope they're not going to go for 4, 5, 6, 7 game right now. Exactly. It's just for me. It's just like I said. We're going to talk about the next game. I don't want to go too much about this one over there right now. Let's move on for the next subject. We have I bring this to you guys. This is the record for Montreal Canadiens right now after 47 game, 20-24-3, and now this year 19-21-7-45. This is a number Marco said is only 2 points. You're right about this, but you have a little bit more number behind that. First of all, they never have a slump of more at 4 losses this season compared. They got twice. Remember the first year, they got 10 losses under Martin Saint-Louis at some point February and March when he got a job. And then after last year, his highest one was 7 or 8 for Martin Saint-Louis. Not this year. Secondly, one thing we don't talk about this is last year, they lost a lot of games 6-1, 7-2, 8-2. 6-2. The goal differential this year, I mentioned this number, is still maybe, maybe now 40, 42, but 13 of the 47 game is losing by a minimum of 3 or more goal differential. So they've been 27 of the 47 game guys been in the game. That's approximately 60% of the time they was in the game during the year. While they go maybe last 3-2 and overtime, or they last 3-1. But that's, for me, it's an improvement compared from last season. Point-wise, they are exactly what I expect at the beginning of the season. I said, people, said 80 point, 88 point. I always said they're going to be between 5 to 7. at the understanding at the end, I would say 72 to 76 points. But I think overall they play better as a group. And then I think individually, have a lot of players are a better year this year compared to last year. Unfortunately, it's not connectively together to have that team to be 21, 20, 2019. But many times, guys, for many weeks, Marko and Enortap, there's been always between 22 and 24 in the standing most of the weeks until Christmas. After Christmas, they drop at 25, 26. And now Buffalo behind them. They cannot catch up Montreal yet. And then you have another team I'm missing. Ottawa behind them.
They've got like 4 games in hand too, right?
Yeah. So I don't think so. After that, the Columbus, Anaheim, Chicago, San Jose going to join Montreal. So the worst for me, it will be the same place last year. The better for me, I think it could be 7 if they are properly working more. I don't expect about that part over there. So again,
so you made a very good video on this one, Coach. Yeah, earlier this week you made a great video, I think, where you pointed out that the goal differential and how many of those games are 1-goal games. And my comments on that post, I just want to share with everyone because I think it's really the key is St. Louis talks about this a lot, right? Like whether it's a player or as a team, there's a floor and a ceiling, right? So what we've seen is that Montreal's ceiling, like when they're playing well, their capability of playing well is higher than last season, but their floor, meaning when they're not playing their best, is still the same as last season. So what you want to see, once you see their floor, when they're not playing well, once that goes up another notch, meaning that there's less of those games or the games that where they're not playing their best, they either find a way to win those or keep it close at least, then you're going to see that equals consistency because when you play your best, you can beat anyone. They've proven that this year, right? I think we all agree. They've beaten really good teams when they're playing their best. So all they need to do is improve their floor, meaning that when things aren't going like they should, good teams find a way to win anyways, even when they're not playing well, or at least keep it close. And that's, I think, the key in terms of what you're talking about, because we've seen it's like a little bit Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to that.
You want to say something in that, but it's all good.
No, let's move on.
All right, sound good. Next one.
Are you having a stroke or sneezing?
No, I was just thinking about that. Nick Suzuki, slum time, Mr. Marko. I have nothing to do, so I'm always looking for a number. That's what. So I did some search. I like to do that. I wish I could work for a team like that. I think I would be good for this. So I look about Nick Ski the last 3 years. I think it would be not good to go like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So I stopped after 21, 22. He have always a slum. This worst month in hockey is I'm talking about like not October or April because they have two, like half season where they play 7, 8, 9 games, not good enough. So I'm talking about a month usually play a 13 game, 14 game, 15 game. Nick Ski is always struggling in January. I don't know the reason yet. That's why I'm put the number there. I would like to hear from Enortap after that. 9.13 game like 2 years ago. He had 8.14 game last season. Right now, he 7.11 game, and I believe they have 3 more games before the end of the month. It's happened, but that's what's happening right now with Nick Ski. At the middle of the year, he have a slump like that for some reason. So I just want to hear from you. Like Patrick does not like Patrick. Now he talk about he have 1 assist in the last 14 game, 50 game, like 5 versus 5. But overall, his face-off is still the same. He create, he go to he crash the net. I think overall, he has, a month exactly like other players. They have a month, and other effect Caulfield has 5 goals the last 6 games. That line do not do very well anyway. as a first line the last couple of games. But I would like to know, what do you feel like? Why the reason you think Suzuki could have those kind of man and generate and not that?
Look, Coach, I don't know. I wouldn't put too much credence on that. Like, I mean, there's very few. You could probably name them on one hand players in the league that do not go through any sustained slump, and you know that those players are the ones that we're always talking about when we speak of the Hart Trophy competition. So, I mean, to me, these are not disrespectful numbers when you consider that he's playing on the first line. He's playing more, probably more ice time than he needs to be. He's up against some of the toughest defenders on each team that they're up against. I mean, you got to look at the overall picture. Of course, things will happen in peaks and valleys, and yeah, maybe this is a valley now right now, and he's kind of pacing himself, but he's got 39 points in 47 games. Like, I mean, for a rebuilding team, that is not bad. Is it first center material? I mean, that you can make an argument for or against it, but I'm pleased with his progress. I'm seeing that. I mean, he's brought his face-off winning percentage to up to 54.7. He's in the conversation. Like, his defensive play has improved so much. I know last year and even earlier on in the year, we were talking about the fact that, oh, well, why isn't he committed to the back check and helping out with the defense? And I've seen improvement in that regard. He's playing the 200-foot game in my eyes, and you know, he's not the biggest of guys, so he incurs a lot of punishment from time to time. But I mean, he's very consistent. Like, go through his entire season and see how many games where he doesn't have a point, and you won't see it more than a couple games in a row, and that's it. So I mean, I think we have to give him a bit of some leeway here, because in my eyes he's doing well, and he still hasn't reached obviously his ceiling. I think that he will continue to improve as he gets better players to play with.
So my theme tonight, gentlemen, I'll stay consistent with it, is two things can be true at once, right? So you can believe that Montreal can win with a center that will have 70 to 75 points, that plays a good two-way game, and you can believe that Suzuki will be that guy. But you can also recognize something like this, which is there's a pattern there that, okay, in January, he seems to struggle a bit more. You can recognize that, stats that Patrick is giving us, no, kind of a 5-on-5 assists over 14 games. Like, it doesn't have to be black and white, guys. You can still believe that Suzuki is a good player and that Montreal could build a winning team with him as their number one center, as long as there's depth to follow him behind him. But also recognize that there's points where he's not going to be as effective, or there's certain parts of his game that he needs to be more consistent on, and things like that, right? And you can be critical of, sometimes he didn't say the right thing at the mic, but it's a huge responsibility being a captain of the Montreal Canadiens.
From Nicolas de Goubibono, Lucas Condora got called up from the Montreal Canadiens.
There you go. Good for him.
Makes sense.
He scored one goal last year against which team?
Yeah.
Again, which team?
Right.
Toronto.
Yeah. It was Toronto, wasn't it?
No.
I believe it's Boston Bruins.
Oh, okay. Really? Yeah, he had a good little game, for sure.
It was his first shot in NHL.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Good for him, man. Like, he's a hard worker. Good for him.
Yeah.
And again, Sean Farrell scored a goal. His first goal in NHL again. Who? Which team?
I don't know, but it was really, really weak. It was the worst first
Ottawa.
goal in any.
No.
Ottawa.
No.
Pittsburgh.
No. Flair Panthers. Who
Toronto.
was the goaltender?
Spencer Knight.
Lion.
Yeah. Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well,
Sorry about the breaking news.
No. That's
Now because
so. Hey, so
you bring a lot of great he does a great comments about that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's good news, Coach. Like for we were debating earlier, like I think we're all glad that they're gonna have four centers that can play in the next game. Like I just it didn't make sense that they were gonna go on. So I think we're all relieved to hear that they recognize that. You were talking about saying we needs help. Well, that's Condetta's like he's a marginal NHL
It
player,
just
but
burned my question of my poll at 10 o'clock. It was which one player
oh,
you called up from Laval Rocket. I didn't put his name over there, so now
oh, there you go.
um,
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen Mishak come up. You guys know how I feel about him. Like second round draft pick. I just feel like Montreal hasn't really given him much of a shot to really showcase his skills, but whatever. So, Coach, for Suzuki, are we going to talk about the comments about the whole thing about him, like talking about his ice time? Do you have that as a topic? Because people are
that was the
talking about
next
that now.
thing after that. I don't know why
Okay.
I were happier there, but it wasn't
Yeah.
that you can talk about. We can to keep that way with us, so you can move on with that part.
Yeah. So, that's something that we see in the chat a lot here tonight. And it's similar to what I was saying, guys, like about how the media, they'll interpret one thing that either like, it's a couple of things I've noticed recently. Somebody in RDS says Jack Eye, he's really improved while he's in Laval, and then all these guys that probably didn't even watch any of the games in Laval, oh yeah, like well he's improved the whole time, and then if you actually watch the games, I'm not sure I agreed, and then Suzuki yesterday in the press conference says something like, well, because they were asking him, well, how did you feel only having three centers? Was it confusing? And he's like, well, it didn't really impact me that much because if you look at it, Jake Evans and Monahan actually ended up playing more the minutes than I did. Somehow the press interpreted that to mean that he was mad that Evans and Monahan got to play more. And yes, maybe there was a little bit of like honesty there. Like he wasn't sure why they sent down Stevens
Excuse
and
me.
why they decided to play with four centers. So maybe a little bit of honesty there, and maybe not the smartest move to put into question what the management decided to do. Usually, a player would say something like, "Hey, we're not, that's a question for management. That's not us players. We just do what we can on the ice." Da da da. Right. So maybe he didn't answer that part right, but it seems that today, all of a sudden, the story is now, oh, Suzuki is mad that St. Louis played Evans and Monahan more than him last night. Did you guys notice that today? Like we're hearing it in the chat now, and I saw that
Yeah.
on RDS.
Yeah. It's
I
taken
saw the
out of
press conference.
context. It's
I
taken
saw
out
the
of
press conference.
context.
I didn't at all interpret his comments to mean
No.
that he was upset that because I mentioned it off the top, right? If you look at the additional minutes with only three centers, he usually averages about 20 minutes. He played 21 and a half minutes. So he only played a minute and a half more, but I think Evans played like 4 minutes more. And Monahan, I think, played 2 minutes more last night. So he
Yeah.
did, St. Louis did go towards those guys. But maybe it has more to do with the fact that he has noticed that Suzuki, has a little bit of a low kind of energy right now. And why would you give him 3 extra minutes if you can tell that he's already doing that? So everybody in the chat, like when you're hearing stuff like that, go back and watch the press conference yourself and listen to what the players are saying. Like you can't just like whether it's us saying something or whether you're hearing it on the RDS or TVA, you know, a lot of these newscasts are trying to make stories and everything else, but I just don't think that was a fair interpretation of what Suzuki said at all. I really invite you to go watch what he said, and I think you'll agree with me that he wasn't dissing St. Louis or upset that he wasn't getting more ice time. So I
Yeah.
encourage you guys to
It's
go check.
just they're just looking for headliners, right? So, clickbaits and what sells and what attracts attention, and
Yeah.
it's easy to take words out of context very easily.
Oh yeah, for sure. Coach, did you agree? Like, do you agree? Like, did you interpret Suzuki's comments that he was upset that he didn't play more
No,
minutes last
that's
night?
why I said to and the time during the headline, Patrick bring this on the subject, right? I text him, I typing to him like, no,
Oh,
he said his IDS said that on the, but I never heard Suzuki complaining about his time. He's only
Yeah.
questionable. He was just surprised to hear he have
yeah.
only three center, end the game.
For sure.
And then after the game, he talked exactly what you just said. He thought it was a good game overall. But Carolina guys beat the Boston Bruins 3-2 tonight. Florida beat
Guys,
Arizona 6-2.
Guys, I know this is a Habs podcast, but we should take like at least 30 seconds to just really talk about the Oilers. Like, just
We
it's
can
just
talk
incredible.
And
after
their
that a little
14
bit
game
later
streak.
when we're done with everything else.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add in our tap on that?
No, let's move on.
I think GSM said that in the chat, and maybe Marco earlier.
What's that?
But I think the last thing we have to be worried is about Nick Suzuki at the end of the night. Well, Gary Conway maybe said that. I think it's Nick Suzuki is not the worst. We have to be worried more at that moment for that part for sure. So let's move on, guys. For the next thing, I want to talk about this. I remember can use Martin Saint-Louis. I talk about this, but we're going to go back if we need time. All right. Report my poll question. Center call up. So it was talking about this. I have to change my question for sure. But I want to reach other question. We want to talk about this. My name will be later because I think this is a big subject tonight. No, will be the next one over there. I don't see I put this there, but Patrick Roy is in town, ladies and gentlemen, and he coach again at Montreal Canadiens tomorrow night. I want to talk about Patrick Roy right now. I want to tell me for the next 5 minutes what you feel, what you think, and what would be the thing we're going to talk about. By the way, guys, for everybody in the chat for tomorrow night, I cannot do the last period. I'm going to be shut down at 9 o'clock. They shut down the computer, the power on my building. It's happened one time per year. It's happened tomorrow, and I cannot do anything about that. I'll be live at 7 o'clock. I'm going to the first period until they shut me down. So when I'm going to disappear, it's because they shut down the building about that. So just want to share this with you. But Patrick Roy is in that town, is in town. I imagine if he was 2-0 and not 1-1, imagine already. But he has different ways. So I want to hear from each one of you about that and the rumor, what you think about Patrick Roy in town. So enough that, because that's your team. You're going to start about Patrick Roy.
First of all, my team is Montreal. I just can appreciate a team that's built for the playoffs, like the Islanders, and I think I still maintain that. I think if they can get to the playoffs, they can make some noise, and I think that they brought in a coach now that needed to sort of instill some kind of spark for the team. You can make cases. Well, they need additional scoring on that team, and maybe their defense hasn't been up to snuff this year. I would say majorly because of some of the injuries, or you can say Sorokin has not played up to his usual self, or you can say, because of Varlamov's injury earlier on, he's had to play more time than, ordinarily you would want to give him. But whatever the case might be, I still think it's a team that hasn't finished yet. I think Roy will put his stamp on this team, and you're going to see that energy level with the team continually increase as they go along. Now, having said that, it's going to be a tough trek, right? Like, it's not going to be easy to get one of those two playoff spots and then in the wild card. But they have played, I think, 2 games more than the teams that are in that neighborhood, in that bubble area. So they're going to have to really sort of almost not pull an Edmonton in terms of winning 14 straight, but they're going to have to string some victories together. Maybe, win 3, lose 1, win 4, lose 1, that kind of thing in order to get them. I think it'll take about 90, I want to say around 95, 96 points to get that wild card this year. The way it's looking, it might even be a little bit higher.
How many?
I like the 95, 96, I think.
Really? Do you don't
Maybe.
believe like you have
I
too
haven't
many
I haven't looked at them. I haven't looked at the math of it, but
No, but do you
you
feel
know,
like you have too many teams and Marco also like you have too many teams? Like I think last
yeah,
year
yeah,
was a race about three teams at the end. Like maybe it was only Florida and Pittsburgh with 92 point, 93 point. I don't say you're not
yeah, but
wrong about this. I just feel like
yeah,
you have not only one team or two teams this year. I think right now you have to check the Flowers, the Carolina,
okay,
the Flowers, the Detroit, the Tampa Bay, the Pittsburgh, the Washington, Islanders, and Devils.
right, right.
Devils
And
is
so
gonna, yeah,
if you look at the teams that are in there, really the only one I'm starting to get a little bit of concern for, but they've played very well up until now, is Philadelphia. We're starting to see a little bit of a regression in there, and I if this whole World Junior thing that centers around Hart and he's had a part in it, it is comes to fruition. You don't know what kind of impact that could have on a team.
and Jersey
And,
too, right? Like they have to have two
and
players too in
Jersey,
Jersey.
they have two players. You're right, and they haven't played up to speed. Now I don't, Coach. I know we make fun of it all the time, especially with Luciano. Like we say that Pittsburgh won't be there. Of course they'll be there. They're a very talented team, but my concern is the longevity. Like, how will they react as a more elderly team down the road? Because it's going to take an impact on them. Right now, you're seeing some players that are like Crosby's playing at the ceiling, and they're still not in a playoff position. So I wouldn't overly worry about somebody like Washington. I think that they'll drop. New Jersey, we don't know what to expect. I think the Flyers will come down. So they're and Detroit, you just don't know, right? Like they've been, if you look at them this year, they've been very streaky. There've been times when they've gone 7 games that they've won, and then they go three or four losses in a row, and all of a sudden take themselves out of that position. And that's part of that progression we talk about with these up and coming teams. It question is, can New Jersey do anything to climb? I think they have the talent up front. Will they address either goaltending and maybe even a defenseman with a couple guys out of the lineup, especially Hamilton? We don't know. So I believe that the Islanders have a legitimate shot at catching one of those two wild cards, but it's going to take a lot of effort. And while
And
if anybody can push them to that, I think Patrick Roy will do it.
Enortap, you managed to convert a segment that was supposed to be about the excitement of Patrick Roy coming to Montreal, about a 5 minute
It's it's
talk
tied
about the
it's tied
Islanders.
together. It's tied together. I would have had less optimism if he wasn't there,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I was never a huge Lambert fan, to be honest with you.
yeah.
He brings
Well, let
he
me,
doesn't seem to fit that mold.
yeah, for sure. For me, guys, I'm really pumped. I think a couple of people in the chat said this. Like, it's just amazing for the NHL to have Patrick Waugh back in the league. These kinds of personalities. We need it for the game, right? You think of potential matchups in the future of Tortorella versus Waugh. Like, it's just good stories, right? Like, you just want big personalities like that in the game. So that, just on that level, amazing news for the NHL to have someone like Patrick Waugh back in the NHL. Tomorrow, it's going to be very exciting. Like, should be a very emotional return for him. I think for a while, guys like Patrick Waugh was probably even doubting, would he ever be able to get back in the league? He admitted himself, he was surprised himself how long it took him to get out of purgatory after what he did in Colorado, right? So, if what I think of, guys, when I heard this news, and this will give you my thought on the Islanders, similarly to when Dubas took the job in Pittsburgh, and I was like, why would he take that job? Out of all the teams, why would you take on a team that is on the downward trajectory? Especially the ownership has been very public that they don't want to rebuild. They don't want to flip those those assets to do a rebuild. So if you're Dubas, it's just, I don't know. Like, I would much rather take on a team like Ottawa, or a team that has assets that you can play around with, so that you can build your own team. So I have a similar kind of take when it comes to Patrick, right? Taking this job. I think it just shows how
Why?
desperately he wanted to get back in the NHL, to be honest, because Enortap, I agree with you that the Islanders have a team built for the playoffs. I don't disagree. If they make the
They have to
playoffs,
get there.
they will absolutely give a hard time especially because they're goaltending, they have big, heavy forwards, lots of experience. They've made it to a couple conference finals. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you that they're a good playoff team. I just don't think they have enough speed in their lineup to compete in the regular season over 82 games to get in the playoffs now. And,
But do you think
yes,
Mark would push them now that
again,
Waugh's there?
maybe, like if you look at the first two games, I watched the first two games and, like it wasn't like they came out with a lot of energy in their first game. They squeaked out. It was a comeback win. It wasn't like they
That's their,
played that differently. They
but
did
that's
like
their MO
Roy
all
hasn't.
year.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? But I'm not just saying the result. I'm saying how they played. Like I didn't see them. I've watched their games before. I didn't really see a big difference. I don't think Roy is at the stage where he's really put his fingerprints on the team yet. Like he didn't change the lineup during that first game. To be honest, he was relying on his assistant coaches to tell him who was playing together. Like they went into overtime. You can see the assistant coaches were the ones running the overtime because he didn't really know the combinations or anything like that. So I think he hasn't really had a chance to really assess the players. He hasn't changed anything from a systems perspective or anything like that. The key thing that he's focusing on right now is he wants them to, it's all culture, right? Like he wants them to understand that they're working together. They want to create some togetherness with that team. So maybe in the short term, there's a bit of a bump. But like you guys were saying, like it's going to be very, very tough to get into that wild card spot with the teams that they're competing against. Um, I would put them in there. Like I'm not saying that there's no chance that they're in that mix. I think they're well positioned to do that. I have my doubts about Philly as well too, but I've had my doubts about them all year. So I'm not really that good at predictions. I just analyze what I see, and I'm a little concerned about the Islanders. But for tomorrow, guys, what do you guys think? Do you think Patrick gets a huge ovation when he gets there tomorrow? Coach, do you think Roy gets an ovation tomorrow?
Absolutely.
It was my next thing to ask you that, but yes.
All right.
100%.
So under or over 3 minutes?
Under.
Here's my only question, Coach. How will the crowd find the chance? Because it's not like they get introduced. Like if he was being introduced, then they have a chance to give him an ovation. But when are they going to give him an ovation? When the team comes
when he's
out on
going
the
to
ice?
cross the ice.
Yeah.
Really?
At the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Do you think
They'll
Habs do
probably
a video?
draw
I definitely, he's going to put his first step on the ice, people screaming all the way.
Yeah.
So
I
before the
agree
game.
with that.
Before the game,
before the one, after, like before the presentation, before the national anthem example, like right there, when he's going to go around there, he'll go there. He's not going to get a video or welcome in house by the Montreal Canadiens, but expect the fan will be stand up and he's going to get a standing ovation tomorrow night.
Do you think they'll put Ronald Corey behind the Islanders bench to make him feel at home?
No, but maybe the Chinese usher maybe behind return.
The Chinese, yeah.
They'll bring his buddy, Mario Tremblay.
Oh, yeah. They can get some Uber before the game.
But it's a great question. Yeah. I expect for that part of there. So Patrick and what guys will be home tomorrow. Look, like for it's a 3 minutes of boo.
3 minutes of booze, yeah. And guys, before we move off Patrick Roy, can we all agree that what a wasted opportunity by the Ottawa Senators not hiring Patrick Roy?
Oh, totally.
Makes no sense. Like, have you seen TVA Sports since Roy has been in the Islanders? They've sent Renaud Lavoie is now working. I think he's going to have to move to Long Island. Like he's going to be at every Islanders game now, covering it for TVA Sports. All these Quebec fans are now, like I think even somebody in our chat saying the Islanders are now my second favorite team. So Imagine all the fans in Gatineau, how excited they would have been for Patrick Roy. Imagine the rivalry, Patrick Roy contre Martin Saint-Louis, un samedi soir, Ottawa contre Montréal. Come on, Ottawa Senators. What are you guys thinking, man? Jesus.
Yeah,
Come
but
on.
the owner said it was about the time he was not there yet for him. So,
Snooze and
we
you
can
lose.
defend that one over there, but
Yeah, exactly.
we'll see happening about Patrick Roy about this. He has about 20 minutes, guys, and we talk about the problem Montreal Canadiens has, and improvements not there. Every time that now I'm going to slide. Well, two things I'm going to talk. We don't talk about him all the time, so we're going to skip Monahan tonight. I want to talk about his next destination, but I will bring Monahan behind the door. So here's what you talking about, Coach. We need a top 6 Marko and Enortap this summer. Mm-hmm. I know we have to wait 2 years, but we need one this year. And I look around, and I know I'm going to get blasted here tonight, but why not? One more time, It's not the end of the world at the end of the night. The RFA and the UFA in 2024. Peterson, Middlestad are RFA like Byfield, Tippett, and Nikash. They are the top 6 or the top 5 McKinnon guys, second goal of the night. 2-0, Colorado. So they are the top 5 on the RFA. All right, and then you have the UFA, the Guanzel, the Reynard, the Senkos, and I don't want 29 years old, 30 years old. I didn't see anything interesting on the UFA to offer a contract. So I touched the RFA. Now, yes, it's a lot of players there. You're not going to pay a lot to get in return. But I'm not going to give him an offer sheet. I'm going to make a trade. My question for all of you here in the chat and for Marko and Enortap is to ask you, which one you would like to get with the Montreal Canadiens first? What would be the trade to get that player for the Montreal Canadiens? Who would you willing to trade to get that players? And then I'm going to get a little bit more deeper, but I don't want to go there yet. So one of you want to take the first, I will let you choose because you may be a player you would like to get and go from there. But I would like to hear a lot of people in the chat, guys, to give me a little bit more some opinion about those players. We talk all the night about Suzuki, Montreal, and everything. So I think it's a bit fun to finish this show, the next 20 minutes. We'll have other subject after that for the NHL. But what do you think about this? So RDP, he wants to get Byfield. Great RDP. Give me what would be your trade to get him. So I don't know. And Enortap and Marko want to talk about this. Can we talk about Peterson?
Enortap,
for me, first, man. For me, I mean, obviously, if I had a choice, I would want Peterson. I mean, you want an elite player, you're going to get it in Peterson. But, I mean, we're talking speculation here to say it'll take this or that. Like, I can pretty much guarantee that all those names that are there will be signed by their current teams.
So are you thinking Vancouver will give him a minimum $12 million per year?
I think he's going to back up the Brinks truck, and whatever they want to put on that truck, he's going to walk away.
Do you want me to make a trade for Alice Peterson?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, first round pick 2024.
Okay.
Caden Cooley.
Done.
Strubble. Joshua Roy. And I get Elian Peterson.
Never. They would never do that.
No, that's too much.
No, they would never do that. No, it's not that it's too much. It's Vancouver would never do that. Never, never, never.
So you think Vancouver will not you think they will willing to pay him $12 million and to keep him or refuse any trade for Elias Peterson?
Yes.
Yeah, they'll find
but if we were going to trade him, it wouldn't be for what you just suggested. I don't think because Montreal's pick, as we know, it's going to be a defense heavy draft. So you're offering 2 defensemen and then probably another defensive prospect on top of that, and Joshua Roy, which is he's a good prospect, but he's not an elite
That,
prospect or
that,
anything.
that could rebuild. That could help rebuild Vancouver's back field for sure, right? Like right now,
I
once you
get.
go outside of Quinn Hughes, I mean, you need different types of defensemen out there as well. Some with size, some with that play with physicality. I don't know if it
Montreal
gets it
doesn't.
done. I'll be totally honest with you. Even though those are assets Montreal has and can afford to probably dispense with, but
Maybe like coach,
I don't think
if you had
Vancouver
to,
does it.
if you had to, like, if you're going to make a serious attempt for Peterson, I would say something like, okay, you're 2024 first round pick, Kirby Doc,
Yeah.
and Caden Cooley, and
Caden
something
Cooley.
else. Yeah, Caden Cooley, Doc, first round pick.
Yeah.
Even then, I don't think Vancouver does it, but you have to throw in a center.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think you're right about Doc. And then after that, I think it will be, a second round pick if you want to, but I think you have to give them a 2 solid players in return, minimum, plus a first round pick. You're going to get maybe Demidov.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and you're still you're. I mean, they're hinging on the fact that okay, we've seen improvement in Doc. He still hasn't improved very much overall. He hasn't stayed healthy. Number one, number two, his numbers have improved, but hasn't reached anywhere. Like you're asking Vancouver to gamble on some players that may never reach the ceiling that they're expected to reach for a player that not only has shown it but has surpassed it this year.
Yeah, and like
So I don't.
Vancouver, they're just at a stage now, coach, like the fan base would just absolutely shank them for doing something like that. Like they're not rebuilding, right? Like that would be a huge step back for them to get futures. You're not trading Peterson for futures. And on top of that, like I just don't, there's no report out there. Really, it's up to Peterson. Like, if Peterson wants to be in Vancouver, he'll be in Vancouver. That's really what it is.
Yeah,
Like they'll figure out a way to make that work. Like,
and after
so
the
to
kind of
me,
year that Vancouver is having,
yeah,
there's no reason
there's
for
no
him
way
to
they're
want to
taking
leave.
that. No,
Yeah,
no,
the
they're
good news about
Vancouver.
that, I checked the number. They're going to lose about $12 million on the. They're going to lose about $14 million on the UFA next year. They have to take a spot, but
Yeah,
Tyler Maris is out. Zadorov
Yeah,
is out. Jan Cole is out. I'll talk about $6 million right there. This Smith, $2 million. And then you have Blogger and Lafferty, about $3 million, both of them together. So, yeah, they have money to pay
yeah.
him. But what it would be the
But that
cost of Peterson next year?
I think it's
I
I
think
think it's right around 11 to 12 million for sure. Yeah, but
yeah,
coach, I think you're
absolutely.
on to something. Like Vancouver is a good trading partner for Montreal because, like you said, in order for them to rebuild their defense once they kind of move some of those guys out, they're going to need NHL defenders that are in an entry level contract, and Montreal just has a buttload of those. And to me, Monahan, I know we didn't want to talk about Monahan, but to me, that's what Vancouver is missing for this playoff run is they need a center, right? Like, especially because they have Miller playing up on the top line instead of playing center. So they've reduced their center depth even more by putting one of their centers as a winger. So you absolutely need another, like right now, their second line center is Bluger. So I don't know if you're going to have a deep playoff run with.
He's having a good
I
year.
like Bluger. He's a good player.
He's
Like
having a good.
I'm not shitting over him, but like I don't think you're going into a long playoff run with him as your second line center. So to me,
Yeah,
there's a trade to be had there. I don't think it involves Pedersen, but I know there's Lekkery Mackey there. There's some other really nice assets there. And before we move off that topic, Coach, I don't think any of those players I agree are going to
I
be
know. I
leaving.
was
But
just conscious the conversation with Vancouver for my end.
yeah. So
yeah,
Monahan, I think
So my
there's a lot
trade for
of
Monahan right now is going to be Monahan and could be Kovacevic or Iris, whatever it is, right? And
yeah.
for that, Montreal get a second round pick and they get a Cosmico from the Vancouver Canucks, $5.5 million for the Montreal Canadiens. That would be for me, the right trade. You can get a first round pick also with Cosmico in return. First round pick and Cosmico in return.
You know how I feel
I
about
don't.
Kuzmenko, coach. Like,
Yeah.
if you think that if Rick Tocchet doesn't like the way this guy plays, do you think St. Louis is going to like the way that? Do you think he like? I just like because people are going to say, "Oh,
No,
MSL St.
because
Louis
now you
be
get
able
a
to."
first round pick in return
Nah, I don't like
for
it.
that one over
Yeah, but
there. So he gave you
it's a high pick.
$5.5 million for 1 year next season. He's going to be on your
No.
top six. He's going to scoring about 30 goals with Montreal next season. And then after that, you can trade him at the traded line in 2025. You can get another big pick at the same thing happening with Monahan. So for me, now Montreal, if you want to add a top six right there, you can get a guy like him because he's a kind of player like Tarasenko. He can score goal.
When he wants to.
Yeah. He's
That's
a
the
right
key.
hand shot. He's a right hand shot. So we have a lot of right hand shots, coach. Like you've already got Caulfield, you've got Anderson, Gallagher, Armia, Ylonen. Like that's really loaded on the top in your top nine with right handed shots. You need a left hand shot. Like I don't know. Like, would it be the worst deal? No. Like, I would prefer that to just sending him for like just a first round. Like, if they could get a first round pick and a player like Kuzmenko, I don't think Vancouver would do that. I think that's a little rich for Monahan, to be honest. Even if you throw in another defenseman, I think a more realistic target is like Podkolzin or something like that in Vancouver. Like,
But
that's a
think
more
about this,
realistic.
Marko and Enortap. Every year you have a team. Usually, you can say, you know what, it'll be hard to go to the playoff when we're not going to get the second round or the third round because it's too hard. I believe this year it's wide open on that.
It is.
All right, and I think if they finish first on that division, right, they're going to play again Nashville or Arizona, whatever it is. It's not going to be a tough team to go through. Now they have to face anyway a second round. The what a shot by the again McKinnon, score a goal by McCarr, assist. That would give possible to go through the second round. They have to go through Edmonton or Vegas. I think at my end that would be to pay first one pick. I think that would be worth it for them. I try to go there. It's not going to happen a lot right there. You said maybe next year, next 2 years. They are right now an
No.
opportunity to go through this. That's the possibility. That would be a team could trade a first round pick for Monahan and Montreal get Kosmenko in return. And you can
I
maybe
think, to
looking.
be
You know
honest,
what? We want maybe a guy like Jake Evans, some depth, and Montreal can offer to them. They're not going to break their money. That will open up another $5 million, Marco, for next year
yeah,
on the
no, I get
table
it.
about that.
Yep, I get
Yeah.
it. To me, I think Vancouver's their plan A is probably Lindholm in Calgary is probably their plan A. You don't see Vancouver and Calgary trading very often, but I think that's probably their plan A. Because I agree, like their window is right now, they're not going to be screwing around. Like they see a real shot at competing this year, and I think they'll be aggressive as well.
Yeah.
I just really have a
Look
problem with Kuzmenko for sure, but
at the end of the day, one thing is for certain. I believe that they have to move him. It's we talked about asset management, and this is one of those where you have to acquire something in return. And I'm not so sure that playing the waiting game is going to be the most beneficial. I know you like to create bidding wars as it gets closer to the trade deadline time, but I'm really really concerned about the possibility of an injury. We saw that last year, and the
yeah,
last thing
especially
you want is something like that to happen again this year, and that would totally set them back in their progression. So, if something that is decent comes up, I think they should not hesitate. There are a lot of dancing partners out there, and I think Hughes is even thinking outside of the box. It doesn't necessarily have to be a team that's right at the top competing for the cup this year. It could be even a middle of the road team that is willing to to have him and maybe give you some kind of prospect that you can use right away and fits into your plans.
Yeah, like it's definitely kind of like musical chairs, right? Like you don't want to be without a chair when the music stops when it comes to this one.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
playing three singers and you start playing Monahan 22 minutes, you never know what can go wrong. So, I like
Yeah.
I like striking early, I think, when it comes to Monahan as well. On this list, coach, to me, the only
I'm
one that
sorry,
I
I just
see.
go back now. So
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I wanted to comment on this.
yeah, yeah.
I think most of these players will stay with their teams. There's an outside chance that if Byfield's agent wants to be a total asshole to them and like really ask for a long term deal, or like let's say the negotiation is very difficult, they might find it difficult to sign him because they're a little bit tighter against the cap. That maybe that's the only chance that you would have there. And but I don't see that Montreal is a particularly good trading partner with LA, to be honest. Like they do have a pretty solid D court. Like they don't have a lot of lefty though. So actually it might not be a terrible trading
They
partner.
might look at goaltending, Marco.
Yeah, but you're not getting Byfield for Allen, like a
No,
like
no, no,
like
no.
yeah.
It would have to be something else. But that's a possibility in one area that they're looking into.
Yeah, but it's only like these moves here are only going to happen during the summer, right? So
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So it's good. Some
Yeah,
some stuff like that usually could happen at an NHL draft at
yeah,
that time of the year, usually, or it could be a little bit
yeah,
later when a player cannot sign a contract. And like Trevor Zegras last year with Jimmy Twistle for the Anaheim Ducks. People was trying to make some trade with there, but. My point behind that tonight was just to add, like, they have a good name over there. It's not like
yeah.
it's a tighter player in Montreal you would love to get at 24, 25 years old. I think Owen Tippett is another good shooter. I know he shoot on the right. Martin Cash for me would be a good step over there. I never really liked a lot Casey Middlestad. He never reached the level that was my expectation. I think it was a 6th overall pick by the Buffalo Sabres when I was in Chicago. But at the end of the night, McKinnon, guys, hat trick tonight.
Unreal.
I
MVP.
believe, guys, I'll be honest with you. McKenna right now, he has exactly what McDavid did last year. Like, he's on
exactly. Oh yeah,
another planet right now. He's on another
yeah.
planet.
He's right now. He's the Hart Trophy winner for sure.
For,
Like,
for
give it to him
absolutely.
tonight. Just give him tonight. Forget the rest of the year. That'll be
While we're
about
on the
that one.
topic of trophies, guys, you know, um, with Bedard being pretty much gone now for another extended period of time, who do you think is going to win the Calder Trophy
We
this
have to
year?
go with
Since
Faber right now.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that.
So, what about, do you have
Byfield.
any other players, Marco? I'm sorry if did you
No, it's
select
okay.
one player, specific players? Or?
Yeah. For me, like the only one I see a potential, like I don't think it's realistic, but if you could make it happen, Byfield would be exactly what the doctor ordered for sure. Overall, coach, I 100% agree with your approach though. Like it's 100% in what they need to do is go after an RFA that a team is going to have difficulty signing because they're up against the cap, or they have a surplus in that particular area, and they need the trading partner, as we know, that we're looking for is somebody that wants left-handed defensemen, right? So that's what we got. So we're looking for somebody who needs left-handed defensemen and maybe a first-round pick, and we're looking for a top six, 20 to 22 to 24-year-old, big left-handed scoring guy. Coach, you know how I feel about Kaliev. He's somebody that won't cost you that much, to be honest. Like maybe he costs you like
So they
a
so
left.
they would make a good trade partner with LA then.
Yeah, for Kaliev, I think there's something there. There's some rumblings that he's not happy with the chance that he's getting in LA. I agree. Like they haven't really given him a good chance in his top six and in the LA top six. And if you watch him play, guys, like he plays on both sides of the puck. He plays heavy on the puck. He's not like just a one
Yeah, he's a
dimensional
good player.
sniper. He's a very good
He's
player.
a good player. Yeah,
Easily could see him playing in Montreal's top six. Big left-handed sniper. Used to play with Caulfield on the U.S. national team. I like him.
Awesome to hear that.
What would you trade for Kaliev, coach? What would you be willing to give up for Kaliev?
For which one?
Kaliev. What would you give up?
Interesting. Who did you say again?
Arthur Kaliev, LA.
No, you. What did you say? Did you trade one players yet?
No, I'm asking you who you'd be willing to
I
give
thought
up.
you said before that you said that I know I would trade this guy with this guy with this guy.
No.
For me, forget him. To get him, I think you have to go with a prospect A, but a prospect A, not like maybe not with the Montreal Canadiens, like an Engstrom example from the Sweden or a player like that.
But don't you think LA would want a roster like somebody that can help them right now for their playoff run?
What
I think so.
I don't think so. They would trade him right now at this moment. I think they will keep him until the end of the summer.
No, he wants Kaliev. There's rumors that he wants out.
Or he wants to get out, but I don't think so. They will get him out at the trade line. I think they will wait for the summer.
Oh, I think they're because LA things are not going well over there right now, right? So if you want what I would propose is I would like because they need a little bit of kind of like support goaltending wise. So you find a way to get you take a salary back, you give them Allen, make that work. So that kind of helps them on the goaltending front. Evans, I think that would be really helpful for them. Just a really good versatile player that can kind of play up and down your lineup. And then Pearson, if you can retain some salary on Pearson for the rest of the year, he has the history with LA, and then you throw like a second round pick with that. Like you're just giving
it's
LA
too much money.
That's a lot of retention, too.
No, but it's too much money right now. You add about $7 million, Marco.
Yeah. For who? For Pearson,
Allen, Pearson, and Evans.
Yeah,
and Evans.
So I would probably just do Allen. So you do Allen, you do Evans, and you retain a little bit of money on Evans to make it work if you can. Take
I
a
think you
contract
should
back.
give them like a guy like Ilonen or something like that to helping. You know what I mean? Like not make the Kings, but if ever happened, they need maybe Ilonen could develop maybe in the next 1 year when you play with the American Hockey. I would be a guy they may be looking, but I think they were looking for a defenseman for that.
So Robert Allen is asking if it's a vintage arc top behind you, and I just want to show him what I got there.
So that would be something like that about that.
I thought you were embarrassed.
So so that's pretty much it. I think we'll be got down now. It's 11 o'clock. So we could proposal all night Tippett, Nikesh, and Middlestad by Philip Peterson. But I think it was a good thing to talk about, like, what could happen with Peterson, everything like that. And, one thing I will finish this, guys. We know we said in 2025 we should sign a UFA, everything like that. But I did not do it yet, but I need to do this. I'll be surprised in the last 5 years, all the players sign a contract at 6 years and more, and they add $7 million and more. How many of them will become successful, not on number the point, but on number the performance to make the team better to reach the next level of their after the season. So, and the fact I'm talking that way is like example like this summer, like we have Pierre-Luc Dubois for the Los Angeles Kings. I don't think so he will. Yeah, year before that we got Kadri with the Calgary Flame. I don't think so he will. You know what I mean? So the risk behind that, Marko and Enortap, is really high. And we think always, you can sign you are free to be perfect. It's not always go that direction on that one. You need to do your homework. You need to be your search. You need to be sure that player is going to be fit on the chemistry of what they are and what it can be. I believe on that one. So I don't know if you want to add something about that.
The data, I would go even further and say the data is even worse for trade deadline time and some of the acquisitions that are made there. You tend to overpay and they don't produce the goods.
Yeah, a UFA and trade deadline is where all the bodies are buried there and some of the terrible decisions that are made. The best moves that are made at the trade deadline are always subtle moves that happen, like depth players that you're getting. If you're going to pick up a really impact player, you should do it early. Like, you don't wait, until right before the deadline. It's just not enough time for those players to really adapt to, like, look at Patrick Kane last year, right? Yeah, I'm getting the Oscar music. Stop talking.
No. It's just like we have 5 minutes to talk about this anyway before the music shut down, everything like that. The Kings 2-1 against the Sabres. We want to welcome Bob the Uncle pop up right now, guys. This was a really good show overall. Great comments in the chat. We missed a couple of questions, guys. I think we have one more here before Enortap. If you can answer that one, it was from Alan. He repeat twice, and I apologize. I skip over there. I didn't ask you Enortap. Does the panel believe Ottawa would catch up Montreal in the standing?
I believe they can, because they have, I believe, 4 games in hand. So it's very possible Montreal's hard schedule ahead of them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think if they don't, it will be very close. Like, they'll be right. I think they will, but it'll be close. Yeah.
What a night. What a fun night. We talk about this. Tomorrow, guys, we are back, but I cannot finish the game. So we have missed the power. Out of that, I need to get maybe a generator, but I'm not going to get internet anyway. So it's not going to help anyway. So it's not going to be a half of the game. But hopefully the game is not going to be like an overtime or shootout. And then I would like to hear the comments about the game, because I tell the people who are going to blast Martin Saint-Louis tomorrow night for Patrick Roy about this. But I look at the sky last night in Thailand. I look at the sky and I see like something was pop up behind. Said, the final Stanley Cup in 2028. And it was Patrick Roy coaching the team.
The New York Islanders.
I just said that. But one thing we know, Marco, I don't know if you know that, because he is the guy. You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. Great performance of the co-host tonight, Marco Larrabee and Enortap. Hopefully see you next Sunday for the weekly recap. A really easy week next week. We have a guy from the Montreal Hockey Now is going to join us next week, Mr. Bernard, Monday night. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later. And then we're going to see next week, possibly Marco will be returned. We have an all-star game next week anyway. Until then, my friend, we want to thank Moderator Luciano in the house tonight, RJ Calabro, and many of you click on the likes tonight. What a great show. What a great fun to be all together. We did it with respect. We respect all of your opinion, and that's the reason why the Hockey Nation is so good for the people come here, because you make that channel better with the co-hosts Enortap and Marco. Until next time, be well, be healthy, find a way not only dominate your day, find a way to dominate the first half of what, Mr. Enortap?
You're 2024.
He did it again. Have a great night, everybody. We love you, each of you. Have an amazing, great night, everyone. Good night.
Good night, Coach.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night, Marco.
Good night, guys.
And booyah!